Hey guys, I'm Dusten, and welcome to another episode of Dutch Guy's Garage. Today we won't be doing a tech video. I want to keep this real short and to the point. I had a couple questions about myself. So I wanted to come forward and address them a little bit. So one of the questions I had was how I got into the hobby. I come from a long Mopar family. My dad and grandfather, both huge drag racers. My grandpa was a national champion in his 65 Plymouth Satellite. So he got us really started and got my dad in at a young age. My dad bought his first 73 Plymouth Duster, 14 years old, car from Arkansas, which he still owns. It's actually Panther Pink, and he actually named me after that car. My grandfather raced all the way through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, took a short break in the 2000s, came back in actually 2018, actually. He came back out of retirement. I think the last time he raced was 2001 or 2. He actually came down to our local drag strip, which is 131 Martin Raceway here in Michigan, and did the Ford's Reverse Mopar event. Real rusty, but he's been racing the same car, same setup for longer than I've been alive. And he actually went out there in 2018 and actually won the whole show. He made a lot of people mad. This, almost 70-year-old man came in and actually just put down consistent times and just whooped them all. And I was there. I videotaped the whole thing, and it was one of my fondest memories of my grandfather just watching this old man bump shift his way and just beat out these guys that go there every weekend, and he hadn't raced in almost 20 years. And yeah, he got us really started in the hobby. And my dad was a big player, and me growing up, watching him drag race, he drag raced everything from his Duster to his Ram Charger to whatever he could get to go run down the track. And growing up at his place was really cool. Duster was there, and he always was parting out, 72 to 93 Dodge trucks, and he had an 84 Ram Charger, which is one of his favorite trucks. He bought it when he was really young, and I remember I just grew up in that Ram Charger, and he had it was a 73 crew cab short box W200, and that was his tow rig for a long time. Actually, he still has that one too, and hoping to get that from him one of these days and bring that back from the dead. It hasn't been on the road in 20 years, but luckily it's been in really good storage. So growing up there was really cool. It was a big influence in my life, and just going to the racetrack, and he used to professionally mud bog for a long time, and just growing up in that atmosphere was just a great influence me to be into cars. And one of the other questions I had was, why Fbodies? Why something so hated? Hated's not a good word for it. Most of the older Mopar community looks down on these cars for their rust issues that they had when they came out. They were known for just 76s. They were known for rusting on the lot.
Rusty.
And they just weren't a good quality car. And so I got asked, why Fbodies? Why get into them? Well, at the end of the day, it comes down to I'm cheap. I'm cheap, and muscle cars, all they do is continue to climb in value. And the everyday guy like me, they can't afford a $40,000 69 Charger. That means $60,000 worth of work at the end of the day. That's what it comes down to. You can still get a nice A body for $10,000, but I grew up with A bodies, and they aren't for me. I don't know. I wanted something different than what my dad had, I guess what I would call it. So, but I always heard a story growing up. So my dad had the Duster in high school, but he also had it was either 78 or 79 Volare station wagon. This is winter car, and this was the 90s, Michigan car. It was rotted already, and he used to brag about he had snow tires on it, and he would drive it out into the local river with a car full of people, and the car had so much spray foam in it, it actually, he would drive it in and it would float to the surface, and he had these big, chunky mud tires on it, or snow tires on it, excuse me, and he actually would use them as paddles and drive around the river. Some crazy story he would tell. But yeah, I'd never seen any pictures of this car because it was just his winter beater, and it was back in the 90s, and he used to run from the cops.
Yuck, them spinning tires, dude!
That was something they did back then, I guess. They didn't have all the communication network that they did now. But he ran from the cops the one night in that Valori station wagon and actually totaled 5 cop cars.
Welcome to Hazard County.
And it was about a year or two before I was born. And right here in the same town I live in, of course. And back then it was only a misdemeanor. He spent one night in jail, but it's kept him out of a lot of jury duty since then. Gets to raise his hand if you ever been accused of fleeing and evading. He gets to be that guy. So that's hearing the stories about that Valori station wagon. It might not have influenced it, but it was a cool story to hear. Not that I influenced running from the police or anything.
5 miles an hour, you believe that?
But yeah, it was something my dad told. So, but yeah, I remember we have a local show, Metro Cruise. It's over in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's like a 2-day event, 18-mile stretch of road, 4 lanes, and they cruise back and forth for a whole weekend. You'll see hot rods, donk cars, you'll see big old deuces on 44-inch tires. It's all, if you're a car enthusiast and you live local, I highly recommend it because you'll just see everything, and it's so cool. And I remember being about 10 years old because Dad and I used to go every year. Even if Dad didn't have a car to bring, we would still go. And I remember seeing a black 77 Dodge Aspen RT. I think it was a 340. I know it was a 4-speed. I don't know if it was a 340, but it was a V8 car, 4-speed, T-tops with black interior. And I absolutely just fell in love the instant I seen this car because I had no idea what it was. Because Mopar magazines back in that day, they didn't really cover Fbodies. So it's like, what is this? What is an Aspen? And I just, looked it up online and everything. That was back when we had dial-up and the old... And I just fell in love with those cars. There's, friends of that age and everything. They had, Ferrari posters or, Porsche posters on their walls. I had a cutout of a Dodge Aspen Super Coupe on my wall. As funny as that sounds, I just fell in love with them. And, getting to the age where I can, I could buy more cars and everything. These cars are super affordable. If you're a family person, you don't have a lot of money, but you want to get into that project car or, something you can tinker with or take on Friday nights with the family. These are great cars to invest in. I mean, I have lots. I won't give a number, but I have lots of them. I've never paid more than $3,000. And some of them I bought turnkey. So if that gives you a general idea how cheap you can be in this hobby, I mean, they check all the boxes. For me, a muscle car is rear-wheel drive and a V8. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, that's what I want. And you know what? That's what these are. So a lot of people, the older generation, looks down on them because of the smog era, yada, yada, yada. I mean, the 364 barrel of the day had 175 horsepower. That's not impressive. But when you bring back to the basic roots of hot rodding, what the guys in the 30s did, they didn't have all that impressive cars, but they learned how to make them work. You can take all the hot rodding techniques that the guys did in the 60s and 70s, between, putting electronic ignition in it, all that other stuff. All those same aspects apply to these cars. You can take let's say, I think it was Hot Rod Magazine. They took a 78 Super Coupe back in 78. And they made it run a low 14. That's an impressive car or impressive number for bolt-on mods. You get rid of the lean burn that a lot of these cars have. Put electronic ignition in it. Put a aluminum 4-barrel intake, and you throw a 650 Edelbrock on it, and you open up the exhaust. You'll run 14s. For a Friday night cruiser, that is plenty in my opinion. If you want to go over that, we got to do a little bit more. But you know what? Chrysler gave you all of the guts to do that. So, in my opinion, it's a great car to get into for the buck. So, yeah, and actually my first car that I bought for an F-body was 7 or almost 8 years ago. I bought a 1977 Dodge Aspen RT is what I was sold it as. It was supposed to be a factory blue RT, which is a really rare color. I was really new to the hobby. I didn't know much. I just knew I wanted an RT. I remember seeing that black RT, and I gotta have an RT. So I found this guy in Ohio. He had this RT, as he called it, and gave me a lot of pictures of it. It looked really great in pictures. I was still into the front-wheel drive Mopar scene at that point. Growing up, my dad had Shelby Daytonas and, turbo Dodge Shadows and everything. I always, that's what my dad drove. So it kind of followed me. I had a, 87 or 88 Shelby CSX, which is the Shelby version of the Dodge Shadow. It was black and silver, had new paint. Beautiful car, turnkey. But I traded it straight up for this guy for this Aspen RT that was fresh out of the body shop. It was supposed to only have primer, and yeah, I kind of got ripped off a little bit on that deal. Brought it home with 3 flat tires, and 2 of them were off the bead, and the car didn't run at all, and turned out it had a rod knock, and it was just an ordeal. But you live and learn. You learn a lot as you get older. But I still have that car. Actually, I've got a lot of money into it. Once I get my new pole barn up, I will be doing a full rotisserie on that, so that will be on some videos coming up. That's kind of, I've been tempted to sell the car a few times, but it's just been, it's one of those, it got me into the hobby as a whole, and I feel like I have to do it. I owe it to it. So, but, like I said, they're a great car to get into if you're, don't have a lot of money, or you just want to have a car, not drop 10 grand. Like I have my tan 80 Aspen Coupe. I went to the Junkyard, which I'm gifted. I will give you that. I have some really nice Junkyards by me, down here in southern Michigan. And I went to the Junkyard, and I got, some louvers. I got some spoilers, and some fender flares. I threw them all in this 80 plain tan coupe. Threw some RT stripes on it. It looks cool. Put some big old fat meats on it, jacked up in the rear. It looks like it came out straight out of an 80s high school parking lot. And I got the 360 in it. I threw a cam in it. Just straight out of an RV. And stoplight to stoplight, that car's a lot of fun. It's got a reverse manual valve body in it, 355 gears. I built it all out of a junkyard. And, not everyone has junkyards like that, but there's still the junkyard mentality. You can use an 8.8 in them, all that kind of stuff is still there. It's still available. So don't be afraid to go out and get it. You don't have to use all Mopar parts, despite what the old timers say. Just get the car back on the road. If you're running and driving, would you rather be running and driving or have to put all original parts back into it? I'd rather go out and have fun. Go do some burnouts. So, yeah, that's how I got into the hobby, and that's why I love these cars. They're cheap. The everyday guy can still afford them, and it's honestly, I met a lot of great people just being in this hobby. Just, you don't have the uptight people that you'll get with a lot of the higher class cars, and there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help you, willing to deal on parts, because they want to see cars back on the road. And I'd like to include myself in that. I've sell a lot of people parts so they can just get their cars back out there. I love taking these cars to car shows because I know I'm going to be the only F-body there, and that's kind of a cool factor. You're not going to go and, like when I went to Mopar National as a kid with my dad, you'd go there and you'd see a whole line of E-bodies, the Dodge Challengers or Plymouth Cudas, and you'd see a whole row of like red ones. Red convertibles. I remember that as one of my first, one of my ideal memories behind Mopar Nationals, going and see a whole line of red Challenger convertibles with white or black interior. There was no differences in the cars. They're just the same. And I don't want to take my car to a car show and be sat next to the exact same car.
Boring.
Call me crazy. I want to have something different. I want to have something that sticks out from the crowd. And that might not be, everybody's cup of tea, but I like having just difference. And so, like I said, if you want to get into something different, not have the same car as everybody at a car show, everybody at your local Cars and Coffee, buy an F-Body and get into something that's not everybody has. So, yeah, that's my little spiel for the night. Gonna go ready to turn the heater back on so you guys can quit hearing me talking. So, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And, there's that notification bell if you want to see our, be the first to see our upcoming videos instead of looking for them. So, but hopefully you guys will stay tuned. I got a lot more how-to tech videos on just Aspens and Willaries. And hopefully some of you will benefit from that. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. So, have a good weekend and get out in that garage and get something done. Because I'm going to.